The ship was dying. Queen Velnara could feel it in her bones as she stood on the bridge of the celestial harmony. The lights flickered above her head, and the floor shook under her feet. Her beautiful feathers, once bright blue and silver, were now dull with fear and exhaustion. "Life support is failing, Your Majesty," Captain Thexmori said. His voice was calm, but his hands shook as he worked at his station. "We have maybe 6 hours before the air runs out." Navigator Pildesta looked up from her controls. "The Voidborn ships are getting closer. They will reach us in 4 hours." The Queen closed her eyes. Her people, the Aquilans, had always chosen peace over war. For thousands of years, they had built beautiful cities and made friends with other species across the galaxy. They had art, music, and poetry. They had everything except weapons. Now their homeworld was gone. The Voidborn had come like a disease, eating everything in their path. They took over other creatures and made them into slaves. They consumed entire planets and left nothing behind but empty space. The Queen's fleet had tried to run, but there was nowhere to hide. One by one, her ships had been caught and destroyed. Now only her royal vessel remained, damaged and alone in the dark between the stars. "Your Majesty," Communications Officer Kelvana said softly, "we still have long-range communications. We could send a message." "To who?" the Queen asked. "Everyone who might help us is already dead or running for their lives. What about the humans?" The bridge went quiet. The humans were new to space travel. The Aquilans had met them only a few years ago when human ships first left their solar system. The humans had seemed so young, so eager to learn about the galaxy. "They are just one world," Captain Thexmori said. "They have no fleet, no experience with war on this scale. But they fight," Pildesta said quietly. "Even their peaceful meetings end in arguments. They seem to enjoy conflict." The Queen thought about the humans she had met. Ambassador Rodriguez had been polite but fierce. His eyes held a fire that no Aquilan possessed. When he spoke about protecting his people, there was something dangerous in his voice. "They are too far away," the captain said. "Even if they wanted to help, they could never reach us in time." Another explosion shook the ship. The lights went out for a moment, then came back dimmer than before. The Queen could hear her crew whispering prayers in their ancient language. She made her decision. "Kelvana, open a channel to Earth. Maximum power. Your Majesty, that will drain our remaining power reserves. Do it." The communications officer's claws flew over her controls. The screen in front of the Queen flickered to life, showing the blue and green world of Earth, impossibly far away. "This is Queen Velnara of the Aquilan Empire," she began, her voice steady despite her fear. "We are the last survivors of our species. Our worlds are gone. Our fleets are destroyed. We are being hunted by an enemy that consumes everything in its path." She paused, looking directly into the camera. "I do not ask for your armies. I know you have few ships and no experience with threats like this. I do not ask for weapons, because we both know that weapons alone cannot stop what is coming for us." Another explosion, closer this time. The Queen did not look away from the camera. "I ask only for hope. My people chose peace over war for 10,000 years. We thought that made us wise. Now we know it made us weak. We are dying because we forgot that sometimes peace must be fought for." Her voice grew stronger. "You humans understand this. Your history is full of wars, but also full of people who fought to protect others. You have something we never developed, the will to stand against impossible odds." The ship shuddered again. Warning lights flashed red across the bridge. "If you receive this message, remember us. Remember that we tried to do good in this galaxy. And if there are others out there who need protection from what destroyed us, I hope you will be stronger than we were." The screen went dark. The Queen stood in silence, feeling the weight of her crown and the failure it represented. "Message transmitted, Your Majesty," Kelvana reported. "But the power drain was too much. We have lost main communications." "It does not matter," the Queen said. "If the message reaches them, it reaches them. If not..." She did not finish the sentence. Far across the galaxy, on the blue world called Earth, Admiral Kang Dae-ho stood in the command center of the United Earth Defense Council. The alien Queen's message played on screens around the room. Military. Leaders from every nation sat in stunned silence as they watched the elegant being speak of her people's destruction. "How long would it take to reach them?" asked General Morrison from the American forces. 6 weeks at maximum speed, replied Admiral Chen from the Chinese fleet. "But we do not have ships that can fight something that destroyed an entire civilization. We barely have ships that can leave our solar system," added Commander Petrov from Russia. Admiral Kang stood and walked to the large display showing the Queen's location. The distance was enormous. The enemy was unknown. The chances of success were nearly zero. "She did not ask for salvation," he said quietly. "She asked for hope." "Admiral, be realistic," General Morrison said. "We cannot fight an interstellar war with exploration vessels and cargo ships." "No," the Admiral agreed, "but we can try." He turned to face the assembly. "The Aquilans found us when we were still learning to navigate between planets. They shared their star charts with us. They taught us about other species. They showed us that we were not alone in the universe." He pointed to the screen where the Queen's image still glowed. "They gave us hope when we were alone. Now they ask for the same gift in return." The room erupted in argument. Voices rose in a dozen languages. Some called it suicide, others called it duty. The debate raged for hours. Finally, Admiral Kang raised his hand for silence. "I will not order anyone to go on this mission," he said. "This is a call for volunteers only. Any human who wishes to answer Queen Velnara's plea may do so. Anyone who chooses to stay will face no shame." He paused, looking around the room at the faces of Earth's military leaders. "But understand this, if we do nothing, we will have to look at ourselves in the mirror for the rest of our lives and know that we abandoned someone who needed help." The Admiral walked to his communication station and opened a channel to every military base on Earth. "This is Admiral Kang Dae-ho to all Earth Defense Forces. We have received a distress call from our allies, the Aquilan Empire. They are facing extinction from an unknown enemy. We are calling for volunteers for a deep space rescue mission. The odds of success are low. The odds of survival are lower." He took a breath. But sometimes that does not matter. Sometimes the only choice is to try. Within hours, applications began flooding in from every corner of Earth. Soldiers, pilots, engineers, and medics all stepped forward. They came not for glory or reward, but because someone far away had asked for help. And humans, above all else, never turned their backs on those who needed them. The response was like nothing Earth had ever seen. Within 24 hours of Admiral Kang's broadcast, over 50,000 volunteers had signed up. They came from every country, every military branch, and every walk of life. Former enemies sat side by side in recruitment centers, united by a single purpose. Colonel Park Jin-woo read through the files at his desk in Seoul. He had been chosen to lead the mission, though he still could not believe anyone thought it was possible. The enemy had destroyed an entire civilization. Earth's most advanced warship was still just an experimental vessel that had never seen real combat. "Sir?" Major Lee Subin entered his office and saluted. She was his second in command, a woman who had never failed a mission in 15 years of service. If anyone could help him turn this desperate plan into something that might work, it was her. "Show me what we have," Park said. Lee spread files across his desk. "The volunteers are incredible, sir. Master Sergeant Kim Tae-ho from the Korean Marines. His squad has never lost a member in combat. Lieutenant Colonel Choi Min-ho from the Air Force. He can fly anything with engines. Captain Han Ji-won from the Medical Corps. She has saved more lives under fire than most doctors save in hospitals." Park looked through the files. Every name represented someone willing to die for people they had never met. "What about the ship?" "The Indomitable is ready for launch. It is our most advanced vessel, built with technology we learned from the Aquilans. The weapons are all theoretical, but the engineers say they should work." "Should work." Park almost laughed. They were betting the lives of Earth's best warriors on weapons that should work. "There is one more thing, sir," Lee said. "Communications specialist Jang Hye-jin from Intelligence. She can crack any code and maintain contact through any interference. And demolitions expert Yoon Sang-woo. He approaches explosives like an artist approaches a painting." Park nodded. These were good people. The best Earth had to offer. It almost made him feel sorry for their enemy. 3 days later, the Indomitable sat in Earth's orbital shipyard like a sleeping giant. It was not the largest ship humans had built, but it was the deadliest. Every surface bristled with weapons. Every system was designed for one purpose: war. The crew gathered in the main hangar bay. 200 of Earth's finest warriors stood. At attention, their faces calm but their eyes burning with determination. They wore the blue and silver uniforms of Earth Defense Forces, but Park could see their individual backgrounds in the way they stood and moved. Kim Taeho's Marines stood like statues, ready for anything. Choi Min-ho's pilots shifted on their feet, eager to be in the cockpit. Han Ji-won's medical team checked and rechecked their equipment, preparing for the wounded they knew would come. "You all know why we are here," Park began, his voice carrying across the hangar. 6 weeks from now, we will reach the last survivors of the Aquilan Empire. They are being hunted by an enemy we do not understand, using weapons we have never seen." He paused, looking at each face in turn. "I will not lie to you. We will probably all die. The enemy has destroyed fleets larger than ours. They have consumed entire worlds. They have powers we cannot imagine." A murmur ran through the assembly, but no one moved to leave. "But," Park continued, his voice growing stronger, "they have never fought humans before. They do not know that we are too stupid to know when we are beaten. They do not know that we fight hardest when the odds are worst." He gestured to the massive ship around them. "This vessel carries the hopes of two species. The Aquilans chose peace for 10,000 years. Today, we choose to fight for that peace." Major Lee stepped forward. "Sir, the crew would like to say something." Park nodded, confused. Lee turned to face the assembly. "When we volunteered for this mission, we knew it was probably suicide, but we also knew something else." She looked around at her fellow warriors. "We knew that if we succeed, we will have saved an entire species from extinction. If we fail, we will have tried." Master Sergeant Kim spoke up from the back. "Better to die fighting for something good than to live knowing we did nothing." "Agreed," said Choi Min-ho. "My grandmother always told me that a person's worth is measured by what they are willing to sacrifice for others." Han Ji-won added her voice. "The Aquilans helped us reach the stars. Now we help them survive among them. One by one, every member of the crew spoke. Some talked about duty, others spoke of honor. All of them made it clear that they would follow their commanders into hell itself if it meant protecting innocent people. Park felt something tight in his chest. These were not just soldiers following orders. These were human beings choosing to risk everything for strangers. "Then we understand each other," he said finally. "We go not as conquerors, but as guardians. We carry with us the hopes of two species, one that chose peace and one that chooses to fight for peace." The ship's AI activated, its voice filling the hangar through the communication system. The crew had nicknamed it Bulldog because of its aggressive programming parameters. "All systems are operational, Colonel Park. Weapons systems are armed and ready. Navigation is locked on target coordinates. The ship is prepared for departure." Park looked around at his crew one last time. They were young and old, men and women from dozens of countries. They were the product of humanity's long history of conflict, shaped by thousands of years of war into something that could stand against any enemy. "Take us out," he ordered. The Indomitable lifted away from Earth on pillars of fire. In the command center, Park watched his homeworld shrink to a blue dot, then disappear entirely as they entered hyperspace. Around him, his crew worked at their stations with quiet efficiency. "Course laid in, sir," reported Navigator Walsh. "ETA to target coordinates is 43 days at maximum speed. Communications array is active," Jang Hye-jin reported. "We will maintain contact with Earth Command until we reach the Outer Rim." "All weapons systems are green," added Weapons Officer Torres. "The new plasma cannons are responding normally." Park nodded to each report, but his mind was on what they would find at the end of their journey. The Aquilans had been fleeing for weeks now. Queen Velnara might already be dead. The Voidborn might have moved on to other targets, but it did not matter. They were committed now. "Sir," Major Lee said quietly, moving to stand beside his command chair. "The crew is asking about tactical plans. How do we fight an enemy we know nothing about?" Park considered the question. In all his years of military service, he had never faced a completely unknown opponent. Every enemy had weaknesses that could be exploited, patterns that could be predicted. "We fight the way humans have always fought," he said finally. "We adapt, we improvise, we refuse to give up." He turned to look at his officers. The enemy destroyed the Aquilans because they were predictable. They followed their nature. Peaceful, organized, logical. The Voidborn learned their patterns and used them against them. "And us, sir?" Park almost smiled. "We are human. We have no patterns. We do not follow our nature. We fight against it. When the situation calls for retreat, we attack. When logic says we should surrender, we keep fighting. We are chaos with a purpose." He stood up and walked to the main display, which showed their route to the target system. "The Voidborn will expect us to act like every other species they have encountered. They will plan for logic, for predictable responses, for rational behavior." He turned back to his crew. "They are about to discover that humans are not rational. We are something much more dangerous than that." In the weeks that followed, the crew prepared for battle with an intensity that surprised even Park. Every day brought new innovations, new tactics, new ways to turn their ship into a more effective weapon. Kim Teo trained his Marines in zero-gravity combat techniques that had never been tried before. Choi Min-ho worked with the engineers to modify the fighter craft for maneuvers that defied conventional physics. Han Ji-won developed medical procedures for treating alien injuries that no human doctor had ever seen. And through it all, they moved deeper into space, carrying Earth's answer to Queen Velnara's desperate plea. They carried hope, backed by the most dangerous force in the galaxy, humans who had decided that something was worth fighting for. The Indomitable dropped out of hyperspace into a nightmare. Where the Aquilan fleet should have been, only wreckage remained. Dozens of beautiful ships drifted like broken birds, their hulls torn open and dark. No lights, no movement, no life. Colonel Park stood on the bridge, staring at the destruction through the main view screen. His crew worked quietly at their stations, scanning the debris field for survivors. The silence stretched on until it became unbearable. "Sir," Communications Officer Jang Hae-jin broke the quiet. "I am picking up a weak signal, very faint, but it is definitely Aquilan." "Location?" "Bearing 27 Mark 4, distance approximately 50,000 kilometers." Park turned to his tactical officer. "What do you see?" Lieutenant Torres studied his instruments. "One ship, heavily damaged. Life support is failing, but there are still power readings. It matches the profile of Queen Velnara's royal vessel. And the enemy?" The answer came from the ship's AI, Bulldog. Its mechanical voice filled the bridge with cold certainty. "Long-range sensors detect multiple contacts approaching from the outer system. Estimated arrival time, 2 hours, 37 minutes. Contact signatures do not match any known vessel types." Park felt his heart rate increase. 2.5 hours to rescue the Queen and prepare for battle against an unknown enemy. Not much time, but it would have to be enough. "All hands to battle stations. Major Lee, take a rescue team to the Aquilan ship. Get the Queen and any other survivors back. Here as fast as possible." "Yes, sir." Lee was already moving toward the exit. "Kim, Choi, Han, you are with me." "Sir," Weapons Officer Torres called out, "you need to see this." Park moved to the tactical station and looked at the display. What he saw made his blood run cold. The approaching enemy ships were not built. They were grown. Organic curves twisted around mechanical components in patterns that hurt to look at. They moved through space like living things, pulsing with dark energy. "How many?" he asked. 17 large vessels, sir. Multiple smaller craft. Total enemy force estimated at over 200 ships. Park did the math in his head. The Indomitable was one ship against 200. Even with Earth's most advanced weapons, those were impossible odds. "What about the debris field? Any ships we might be able to repair quickly?" "Negative, sir. All Aquilan vessels show complete power failure. Whatever the Voidborn did to them, it was thorough." Park nodded grimly. He had expected this, but he had to check. They were on their own. "Bulldog, give me a tactical analysis. How do we fight something like this?" The AI processed for several seconds before responding. "Insufficient data for conventional tactical recommendations. Enemy vessels appear to use organic technology combined with mechanical systems. Suggest unconventional approach." "Meaning?" Do something unexpected, Colonel. These entities have conquered multiple civilizations. They will expect standard military responses. Human tactical doctrine emphasizes adaptation and improvisation. Recommend we embrace chaos. Despite everything, Park almost smiled. Even their AI was telling them to act human. Across the void, Major Lee's shuttle approached the damaged royal vessel. Through the shuttle's windows, she could see the elegant lines of Aquilan architecture twisted by battle damage. Holes had been torn in the hull, and entire sections were dark. Life support readings are critical, reported pilot Choi Min-ho from the cockpit. Maybe 20 minutes of air left. Then we work fast, Lee replied. She turned to the others. Kim, your team secures the area. Han, you focus on medical needs. I will find the Queen. They docked with the Aquilan ship through an emergency airlock. The moment the doors opened, Lee knew they were in trouble. The air was thin and cold and something else. There was a smell like rotting flowers mixed with metal. Contact, Kim called out from ahead. His weapon was raised, pointing down a corridor lined with what looked like veins growing along the walls. Movement! Approximately 30 meters ahead. Lee moved up beside him and activated her helmet lights. What she saw made her stomach turn. The corridor was not empty. Twisted forms hung from the walls, Aquilan crew members partially consumed by some kind of parasite. They were still alive, but barely. Their eyes followed the humans as they passed. Medical emergency, Han said, moving toward the nearest victim. These people are being kept alive while something feeds on them. Can you help them? Han ran her scanner over one of the infected Aquilans. The readings made her shake her head. The parasites are integrated into their nervous systems. Removing them would kill the host instantly. They pressed deeper into the ship, following the life signs toward the bridge. The organic growths became thicker, pulsing with a sickly light. The smell grew stronger. There, Lee pointed ahead to a sealed door marked with Aquilan royal symbols. The bridge. Kim's team placed explosive charges around the door's locking mechanism. The blast was small but effective, and the door slid open with a groan of twisted metal. Inside, they found Queen Velnara. She was alive, but barely. The elegant ruler was suspended in what looked like a cocoon of organic material. Tubes connected to her body, slowly draining her life force. Her eyes were open and aware, but she could not speak. "Get her out of there," Lee ordered. "Wait," Han said, running, her scanner over the cocoon. "This is not just feeding on her, it is keeping her alive while it feeds. If we cut the connections too quickly, the shock might kill her. How long do we have?" "Minutes, maybe less." Han began working with surgical precision, cutting through the organic tubes one by one. Each cut caused the Queen's body to spasm, but her eyes remained focused on Lee's face. "We are human," Lee said softly. "We received your message. We came to help." The Queen's eyes widened with something that might have been hope. Behind them, Kim's voice crackled over the radio. "Major, we have a problem. I am reading movement throughout the ship. The parasites are waking up." "How long do you need?" Lee asked Han. 5 minutes. Maybe 10. "You have 3. Lee activated her weapon and moved to cover the entrance. Through the corridors, she could hear sounds like nothing she had ever experienced. Wet, sliding noises mixed with mechanical clicking. The Voidborn were coming. The first one appeared at the far end of the corridor. It had once been an Aquilan, but now it was something else entirely. Organic growths covered half its body, and its remaining eye glowed with alien intelligence. It moved with jerky, unnatural motions. Lee fired. Her plasma bolt struck the creature's center mass and burned through its chest. It kept coming. "They are tough," she reported to Kim. "Standard weapons are not very effective." "Try the new ammunition," Kim suggested. "The explosive rounds." Lee switched ammunition types and fired again. This time, the creature exploded in a burst of organic matter and metal fragments. It stayed down. "That works better." More creatures appeared, moving faster now. They seemed to communicate without sound, coordinating their approach with disturbing efficiency. "Almost finished," Han called out. 30 more seconds." Lee and Kim's team formed a defensive line at the bridge entrance. The Voidborn infected. Crew members came at them in waves, their movements becoming more coordinated with each attack. It was like fighting a single organism with dozens of bodies. "Got her," Han announced. Queen Velnara was free from the cocoon. supported by portable, life support equipment. She was weak but conscious. "Move!" Lee ordered. "Back to the shuttle!" They fought their way through the infected ship, carrying the Queen between them. The void-born creatures followed, their numbers growing as more infected crew members joined. The pursuit. At the airlock, Choi had the shuttle's engines already warming up. "We need to go now. Sensors show the main void-born fleet entering weapons range." They loaded the Queen into the shuttle and sealed the airlock just as the first void-born creatures reached them. Through the viewports, Lee could see them clawing at the hull with desperate fury. "Take us home," she told Choi. The shuttle pulled away from the dying Aqualand ship and raced back toward the Indomitable. Behind them, the royal vessel finally went dark as its last power systems failed. On the bridge of the human warship, Park watched his rescue team return. On the main screen, the void-born fleet was visible now, a mass of organic ships moving, like predators sensing wounded prey. "Major Lee reports successful rescue of Queen Velnara," Jang Hyejin announced. "But sir, you need to hear this." The communication channel opened, and Lee's voice filled the bridge. "Colonel, the enemy is not just destroying ships. They are keeping crews alive to feed on them. This is not conquest. This is farming." Park felt something cold in his stomach. An enemy that conquered was one thing. An enemy that farmed intelligent beings was something else entirely. "ETA on enemy fleet? 47 minutes, sir." Park looked around his bridge at the faces of his crew. They were afraid. He could see it in their eyes. But they were also angry. And angry humans were the most dangerous things in the galaxy. "All hands, this is the Colonel. We now know what we are fighting. The enemy does not just kill their victims. They keep them alive and feed on their suffering. They have done this to entire civilizations." He paused, letting that sink in. "I want every human on this ship to understand something. We are not just fighting for Queen Velnara. We are not just fighting for the Aquilan species. We are fighting against something that treats intelligent life as food." He could hear the anger building in his. The battle began exactly as Colonel Park had expected. Badly. The void-born fleet opened fire from maximum range with weapons that defied human understanding. Beams of dark energy lanced across space, while organic projectiles that moved like living creatures sought out the Indomitable with disturbing intelligence. "Evasive maneuvers," Park ordered, gripping his command chair as the ship shook under enemy fire. Pilot Choi Min-ho pushed the Indomitable through maneuvers that should have been impossible for a ship of its size. The vessel twisted and rolled through space like a fighter craft, its engines screaming with effort. "Weapons free," Park commanded. "All batteries target the largest enemy vessel." The human ship's plasma cannons fired in perfect synchronization. Bolts of superheated energy struck the lead void-born ship, burning through its organic hull. For a moment, Park thought they had scored a decisive hit. Then the enemy ship began to heal. The damaged sections regrew like flesh closing over a wound. "Sir, our weapons are having minimal effect," reported Weapons Officer Torres. "The enemy vessels are regenerating faster than we can damage them." "They are also learning," added the ship's AI Bulldog. "Each attack pattern becomes less effective as the enemy adapts to our tactics." Park watched the tactical display as more enemy ships closed in around them. The Voidborn were using classic encirclement tactics, cutting off escape routes while concentrating fire on their single opponent. It was exactly what any competent military force would do. It was logical, efficient, and completely predictable, which meant it was exactly what Park had hoped for. "All stop," he ordered suddenly. The bridge went quiet. Major Lee turned to stare at him. "Sir? You heard me. Full stop. Cut engines." "Colonel, if we stop moving, they will destroy us," Torres protested. "Yes, they will," Park agreed calmly. "If we give them the chance." He activated the ship-wide communication system. "All hands, this is the Colonel. Phase 1 of the battle. Plan is complete. The enemy has taken the bait. Now we show them what humans do when conventional tactics fail." He turned to Lee. "Signal the boarding teams. Operation Crazy Ivan is go." Lee smiled grimly. They had spent weeks preparing for this moment. The point where human logic would take over from military logic. "Kim, launch your teams. Choi, I need every fighter we have in space in the next 60 seconds. Han, prepare for massive casualties." The Indomitable became a hive of activity as launch bays opened and disgorged their deadly cargo. Not weapons or missiles, but humans in powered armor carrying cutting tools and explosives. Master Sergeant Kim Teo led the first wave of boarding craft directly toward the largest enemy ship. His team rode in modified shuttles that had been stripped of everything except engines, life support, and the biggest cutting tools human engineers could build. "Remember," Kim told his Marines over the radio, "we are not trying to capture these ships. We are trying to give them indigestion." The Voidborn responded exactly as Park had predicted. Their organic ships began focusing their defensive fire on the small boarding craft, trying to swat them down like insects, which meant they stopped shooting at the Indomitable. "Now," Park ordered. The human warship exploded into motion, its engines, going from full stop to maximum acceleration in seconds. Instead of running away from the enemy fleet, it charged straight into the center of their formation. "Sir, this is insane," Torres said, watching their ship race towards certain destruction. "Exactly," Park replied. "The enemy has spent thousands of years fighting logical opponents. They have never fought humans." The Indomitable reached the center of the Voidborn formation and did something that violated every rule of space combat. It opened fire in all directions at once. Plasma bolts and missile salvos spread out in a sphere around the ship, striking multiple enemy vessels simultaneously. The human ship spun like a top, its weapons creating a deadly light show that turned the battlefield into chaos. "Damage report," Park called out as explosions lit up the void around them. "Hull breaches on. Decks 7 and 12. Shield generators are overloading. Weapon systems are operating at 90% efficiency. And the enemy?" "Confused, sir. Their formation is broken apart. They are trying to avoid hitting each other with their return fire." Meanwhile, Kim's boarding teams had reached their targets. The modified shuttles crashed into the hulls of enemy ships and began cutting their way inside with industrial plasma torches. "Entering enemy vessel now," Kim reported. His voice was calm despite the fact that he was leading 20 Marines into the belly of an alien nightmare. "Interior is organic. Walls appear to be alive." The Marines moved through corridors that pulsed like arteries, their weapons ready for anything. What they found was worse than they had imagined. The ship was not just controlled by the Voidborn. It was made of them. The walls were composed of infected tissue from dozens of different species. The floor moved under their boots like living skin. "Sir, we are reading massive life signs throughout the ship," reported Corporal Walsh. "But they are not individual beings. It is like the entire vessel is one giant organism." "Then we kill the organism," Kim replied simply. He activated his heavy cutting tool and began slicing through what looked like a major nerve cluster. "Yoon, start placing charges. If this thing is alive, we are going to give it the worst stomachache in the galaxy." Explosives expert Yoon Sang-woo moved through the ship like an artist at work. He placed his charges not randomly, but in patterns designed to cause maximum systemic damage. Each explosion would trigger others, creating a cascade effect that would tear the organic ship apart from within. "Charges set," he reported. "Detonation in 60 seconds. All teams, evacuate now," Kim ordered. But as the Marines tried to leave, they discovered something terrifying. The ship was fighting back. Corridors began to seal themselves. Walls sprouted tentacles that tried to grab the retreating humans. The organic vessel was trying to trap them inside. "We have a problem," Kim reported to the Indomitable. "The ship is not going to let us leave." On the bridge of the human warship, Park made another impossible decision. "Choi, I need you to do something that will probably kill you." The pilot's voice came back without hesitation. "What do you need, sir?" "Ram your fighter into that ship's main body. Create an exit for Kim's team." There was a pause. "Understood, sir. It has been an honor." Lieutenant Colonel Choi Min-ho pushed his fighter into a suicide dive toward the enemy vessel. At the last second, he ejected from the cockpit and used his personal thruster pack to board the ship himself. His fighter crashed through the organic hull like a spear, creating a massive breach. The ship screamed, actually screamed, as its living tissue was torn apart. Atmosphere rushed out of the wound, carrying debris and organic matter into space. "Exit created," Choi reported, his voice tight with pain. "But I am trapped inside. The explosion from the fighter damaged my thruster pack." Kim's Marines fought their way toward the breach, dragging their wounded with them. Behind them, Yoon's explosives began detonating in sequence. Each blast sent shockwaves through the living ship, causing it to convulse in agony. "Choi, where are you?" Kim called out as his team reached the damaged area. "Forward section, near what looks like a brain center. And, sir, you need to see this." Kim pushed through the twisted wreckage until he found Choi standing in what could only be described as the ship's nerve center. Organic computers pulsed with alien thoughts. But that was not what had captured the pilot's attention. Suspended in transparent pods throughout the chamber were beings from dozens of different species. They were alive but unconscious, their minds somehow connected to the ship's organic network. "They are not just feeding on them," Choi said quietly. "They are using their consciousness to run the ship. These people are prisoners in their own minds." Kim felt rage building in his chest. "Can we free them?" "I do not know, but we can try." Working quickly, the Marines began cutting through the pods. As each one opened, the trapped beings inside began to stir. Some were Aquilans, but others were species Kim had never seen before, victims from other conquered worlds. "This is impossible," one of the freed beings said in broken galactic standard. "No one has ever escaped the Voidborn." "You have not met humans before," Kim replied, helping the alien to his feet. The rescued beings looked around in confusion and wonder. One of them, an elderly Aquilan with scars covering his feathers, spoke up. "We have been trapped in the network for months, forced to watch as our bodies were used to pilot these ships, to attack our own people, but we remember everything." "Then you know their weaknesses," Kim said. "Yes," the Aquilan said, his eyes burning with newfound hope. "We know how to hurt them." Back on the Indomitable, Park watched as his impossible plan began to work. The enemy fleet was in complete disarray. Ships collided with each other as their organic networks failed. Some began attacking their own allies as freed prisoners took control of key systems. "Sir, we are receiving transmissions from inside multiple enemy vessels," reported Communications Officer Jang Hae-jin. "The rescued prisoners are providing tactical data." "What kind of data?" "Weak points in the organic structure, command and control nodes. Most importantly, the location of their primary coordination vessel." Park looked at the tactical display and saw it. A massive ship at the center of the enemy formation, larger than all the others. 3 days after the battle, the Indomitable looked nothing like the sleek warship that had left Earth. Its hull was scarred and patched, entire sections sealed off due to damage. But it was alive, and so was its crew. More importantly, so were the thousands of beings they had rescued from the Voidborn ships. Colonel Park walked through the makeshift medical bay that had been set up in Cargo Hold C. Captain Han Ji-won moved between beds filled with survivors from dozens of different species. Some were Aquilans, but many others came from worlds whose names Park could not even pronounce. "How are they doing?" he asked Han. She looked up from treating a reptilian being whose scales had been partially consumed by voidborn parasites. "Better than they should be. The human immune system is apparently very good at fighting off these organisms. We have been able to develop treatments that work on other species, too." "And Queen Velnara?" "Recovering. She wants to speak with you." Park found the Aquilan Queen in a private room near the medical bay. She was sitting up in bed, her feathers slowly regaining their natural blue and silver color. When she saw him enter, she tried to stand. "Please do not get up," Park said. "You need to rest." "Colonel Park," she said, her voice still weak but filled with emotion. "I do not know how to thank your people. When I sent that message to Earth, I hoped only that someone would remember my species existed. I never imagined—" "You never imagined that anyone would be crazy enough to actually—" "Come!" The Queen smiled, the first smile Park had seen from any Aquilan since arriving in the system. "I was going to say brave enough, but crazy works as well." Park pulled up a chair and sat down. "Your Majesty, we need to talk about what happens next." "Yes. The Voidborn will return eventually. They do not give up easily." "That is not what I meant. I am talking about the survivors we rescued. There are over 3,000 beings on this ship from 47 different species. Many of them have been imprisoned by the Voidborn for years. Their homeworlds are gone. They have nowhere to go. The Queen was quiet for a long moment. What are you suggesting? An alliance. Not just between humans and Aqualands, but between all the survivor species. The Voidborn are not the only threat out there. Your people chose peace for 10,000 years, and it made you vulnerable. Our people chose war for most of our history, and it made us strong. But neither approach is enough by itself. You want to teach us to fight. I want us to teach each other. Your people understand diplomacy and culture in ways humans never will. Our people understand conflict and adaptation in ways others do not. Together, we might build something that can protect everyone. Queen Velnara considered this. There would be challenges. Many species do not trust each other. Old conflicts, territorial disputes, philosophical differences. Then we work through them, one problem at a time. The Queen looked at Park with something that might have been awe. You truly believe this is possible? Your Majesty, 3 days ago, we defeated an enemy that had conquered dozens of civilizations. If that is possible, then building an alliance is definitely possible. Before the Queen could respond, alarms began sounding throughout the ship. Park's communicator crackled to life. "Colonel, to the bridge immediately," came Major Lee's urgent voice. "We have a situation." Park ran through the corridors to the command center where his crew was gathered around the main display. What he saw made his heart sink. "Report," he ordered. "Long-range sensors are detecting multiple fleets approaching the system," Lee said. "Not Voidborn, something else entirely." "How many?" "At least 12 different groups, sir. All moving toward our position." Park studied the tactical display. The approaching fleets were not moving in formation or communicating with each other. They seemed to be racing to reach the system first. "Sir," Communications Officer Zhang Yejin spoke. "Up. We are receiving transmissions from multiple sources. They all want to talk to us." "Put the first one through." The screen lit up with the image of a being that looked like a cross between a bear and a rhinoceros. Its voice was deep and rumbling. "Human vessel, this is Admiral Korex of the Thalen Empire. We have come to offer our services as mercenaries. We heard you defeated the Voidborn. We wish to learn your methods." Before Park could respond, another transmission came through. This one showed a graceful being with crystalline features. "Human ship, this is Speaker Melodia of the Crystal Confederation. We offer technological exchange. Your victory has impressed us greatly." A third transmission followed, then a fourth. Soon the communications board was overloaded with incoming calls from species across the galaxy. "Sir," Lee said quietly, "word of our victory has spread. Everyone wants to meet the humans who defeated the Voidborn." Park felt overwhelmed. They had come to rescue one queen and her crew. Now it seemed like half the galaxy wanted to talk to them. "Put me on general broadcast," he ordered. "All frequencies." "You are live, sir." Park looked into the camera, very aware that his words were being heard by dozens of different species across multiple star systems. "To all approaching fleets, this is Colonel Park Jin-woo of the Earth Defense Forces. We appreciate your interest in establishing contact with humanity. However, this system is under quarantine due to Voidborn contamination. Any ships entering the system will be asked to maintain safe distance until decontamination is complete." He paused, choosing his next words carefully. "We welcome the opportunity to meet with representatives of your governments and species, but we will not conduct negotiations while weapons are drawn or while there are survivors who need medical attention. If you wish to talk, then talk. If you wish to make threats, you will be asked to leave." The responses came immediately. Some of the fleets acknowledged his request and took up positions at the edge of the system. Others continued their approach, apparently unwilling to wait. "Sir, 3 fleets are still closing on our position," Torres reported. "They are not responding to our requests to maintain distance." Park sighed. It seemed that even after defeating the Voidborn, there would always be someone else who needed to learn about human stubbornness the hard way. "All hands to battle stations. Not for combat, but for show of force. Charge all weapons, but do not lock onto any targets." The Indomitable powered up its weapons systems, sending clear energy signatures to every ship in the system. The message was unmistakable. The humans were ready to fight if necessary. "Sir, the approaching fleets are slowing down," Torres reported. "They are taking up positions at safe distance." Good. Yang, open a channel to Queen Velnara. The Queen appeared on the screen, looking much stronger than she had an hour before. Colonel, I have been monitoring the communications. It seems our rescue has attracted attention. Yes, it has. Your Majesty, I need to ask you something. Are you ready to help build the alliance we discussed? Now? While we are surrounded by unknown fleets? Especially now. These species are here because they want something. Technology, alliance, protection, or just the chance to be on the winning side for once. This is our opportunity to bring them together. The Queen was quiet for a moment. What do you need me to do? Be yourself. Show them what your people stand for. Remind them why peace is worth fighting for. Over the next several hours, Park and Queen Velnara conducted a series of delicate negotiations with the various fleets. Some wanted military alliances. Others offered trade agreements. A few simply wanted to establish diplomatic relations, but gradually, a pattern emerged. Every species that contacted them had the same underlying concern. They were afraid. Afraid of the Void-born returning. Afraid of other threats they did not yet understand. Afraid of being alone in a dangerous galaxy. What they need, Park realized, is hope. Late that night, Park stood in the observation deck, looking out at the dozens of ships now stationed around their position. Master Sergeant Kim joined him, his arm in a sling from injuries sustained during the boarding action. Sir, do you think this will work? Kim asked. This alliance idea? I do not know, Park admitted, but I know that doing nothing definitely will not work. The crew is asking questions about whether we will stay out here or return to Earth. Park turned to look at his sergeant. What do you think we should do? Kim considered the question. Sir, we came out here to save one person. We ended up saving thousands. Maybe our job is not finished yet. Even if it means staying away from Earth for years, maybe decades. Sir, with respect, Earth does not need us anymore. But these people do. Park nodded. Kim was right, of course. Earth was safe, protected by distance and its own growing fleet. But out here, in the vast darkness between the stars, there were species who needed what humanity could offer. The stubborn refusal to give up, the willingness to fight for others, and the belief that everyone deserved a chance to survive. The next morning, Park sent a message to Earth Command explaining the situation and requesting permission to establish a permanent human presence in this sector of space. The response came back within hours. Permission granted, Colonel. Build your alliance. The people of Earth are proud of what you have accomplished. 6 months later, the first meeting of the Galactic Alliance Council was held aboard a new space station built jointly by dozens of different species. Queen Velnara served as the first speaker of the council, while Park became the Alliance's first defense coordinator. The station was a marvel.